Being able to take a good licking is a prerequisite for any fighter who wants to make it in the sport of boxing, but some have gone well beyond the call of duty before either the referee has intervened or they've just got totally mangled. Here are my top 3 worst beatings ever in a boxing ring. At number 3, for the WBA light middleweight championship of the world, Roberto Duran against the champion Davy Moore. Now, the Panamanian had lost his last big high-profile fight against Wilfred Benitez, and then he'd lost again not long after against Kirtland Lang, so he wasn't looking so great at the top level at this point, Roberto Duran. Top that off by the fact that Davy Moore had him for the natural physical advantages, and he was quite a bit younger, 24 to 32. But Duran, on an electric night in Madison Square Garden where they were really rooting for the Panamanian, he absolutely took it to the far less experienced fighter. He didn't just take him to school, he took him to a really dark place. He had his cheek swelling up as early as the second round. There was a vicious body attack going on. Duran was always so good at fighting clever and slipping up close, making you miss, then whipping in the kind of body shots that might not seem brutal, those little short shots that don't really move him. But Manny was chipping away, and in the 7th round he dropped him heavily after a big battering. But it was in the 8th round where he was already had nothing left, the champion Davy Moore, and Duran was just throwing everything at him. The referee, Ernesto Magana, he really could have done with stepping in, because you look back at that and those images and there's some scary moments where he's super exhausted as Duran is just putting it on him. Savage stuff. At number 2, for the vacant WBC light middleweight championship, Manny Pacquiao against Antonio Margarito. Now, some people might try and spin the old Margarito was a bit drained, but would it have made any difference? Pacquiao was all over him. It was rat-a-tat-tat, or more like thud-thud-thud on his head for the full 12 rounds. Now, Pacquiao broke an orbital bone of Margarito's, which kind of ended his career almost, you could say, in the 4th round with a vicious left uppercut. He reacted straight away. He began to wilt, and Pacquiao was just all over him. Now, I watched this late at night here in the UK, and of course it was during Pacquiao's amazing prime when he was just on top of the world. And so I failed to recognise that Margarito actually put up quite a good fight himself, despite the punishment he absorbed. He pinned Pacquiao on the ropes at one point and broke a rib and almost dropped him, but I didn't really register this just while watching Pacquiao's whirlwind activity. Pacquiao really had to grit his teeth to get through that, but he did get back on top, and again, 10th round, he walks him onto a right hook, and at this point, Margarito's, the shots he'd taken, I'd like to know the punch stats landed on Margarito's head. He took an absolute battering, and I think it was really the last time we saw the peak Manny Pacquiao. And at number 1, for the heavyweight championship of the world, Jack Dempsey against Jess Willard. Now, there had been giant slayers before Dempsey. We had Sam Langford, we had Jack Dillon. But what Dempsey did that on that roasting day in Toledo, Ohio, July 4th, is the stuff of legend. It's pretty much the go-to example when you think savage in a boxing ring. Dempsey's own dad, Hiram, didn't think he was going to win, and Willard was the slight favourite, 5-4 on. But what happened? Knocked down 7 times in the first round. Technically, didn't escape it because he didn't rise after the 10. He was dumped in his corner and then just took an absolute shell-lacking in rounds 2 and 3 before he couldn't continue. Dempsey did pretty much everything to him apart from decapitate him. As time's gone by, the injuries that Willard sustained have been a bit exaggerated. I remember Roger Kahn, who was a biographer of Dempsey, I think he tried to say teeth came out and all this, or the jaw was broken in multiple places, ribs broken. I don't think there was that much damage, but if you look at some of the images, there seems to be some clear dints or dents going on around Willard's jaw and his cheekbone. And what people don't see, because it's always the knockdowns that are highlighted, is that Willard had to go on in rounds 2 and 3 as well, of which there's bits of film of, and he is just getting beaten to raw pulp. His face started pissing blood, and Dempsey is just throwing in heavy hooks that are visibly moving the 6'6" guy, who always did have a good chin, and he just got some kind of butchering. The fight later, poetically, became known as the Massacre Under the Sun.